Hello everyone, my name is Jazz Rasul. Today I'm going to be doing a briefing for coaching and mentoring professionals. I'll be discussing the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act and its implications for those who are using AI in partnership with their coaching or mentoring practice. Now, a little bit about my background. I'm someone who started off his career with degrees in physics and computer modelling of molecular and biological processes, studying the brain. I've been an intercultural executive coach now for 20 plus years. In terms of my most recent work, I was a research fellow and I looked into research relating to artificial intelligence and metaverse-based technology-enhanced learning. More recently, I've been focusing on technology-enhanced coaching and been a consultant for that. And I'm currently in the process of writing a proposal and doing a PhD in AI-based coaching. I'll be presenting on AI coaching frameworks, research and workshops in many International Coaching Federation, European Mentoring and Coaching Council and Association Coaching events in 2024. As Director of the AI Coaching Alliance, I've helped set that up and it's currently got 180 plus leading international coaches and researchers. And its main focus is to promote frameworks for ethically centred adoption of AI into coaching practice, teaching, supervision and governance. The aim is to also collaboratively develop frameworks across different governing bodies for coaching and associate commercial and public sector stakeholders. Some smaller facts. In 2008, I created my own AI coaching platform and began providing new intercultural psychometric profiling, coaching and mentoring. So I've had about 16 years of cultivating AI coaching best practices. I'm a mentor for the Global Institute for Evolutionary Women, helps women entrepreneurs all over the world, and I help coach and mentor those women entrepreneurs from around the world in cohorts of 7 or 12 participants in daily development as part of a 3-month program of AI facilitated coaching, which is part of a longer, larger 9-month entrepreneurial development journey. From February 2023 to February 2024, I've gained a professional certificate in executive coaching from Henley Business School, certification in business analysis from the British Computer Society, certification in civil, commercial and workplace mediation from the Society of Mediators, and a level 3 credential in mental health first aid from the Royal Society of Public Health. I've also gained a certification in mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy approved by the British Psychological Society. Specifically, what we're going to look at in this discussion is the human and AI potential benefits and opportunities, as well as the potential ethical and legal risks of using AI within coaching and mentoring practice. The provisional release of the EU AI Act on 9th of December in 2023 has had several implications for executive coaching and mentoring professions that are using or will use artificial intelligence in their practices. Coachees, mentees, coaches, mentors, supervisors, training providers, regulatory and governance bodies, research and development projects or organisations, as well as business products and services, will all need to be prepared for compliance. There are risks for violating articles of the Act, and these are going to need to be prepared for and be mitigated against. In February 2024, we saw the establishment of the EU Artificial Intelligence Office. Through it, the EU AI Act responsibilities and systems of compliance are now in the process of being enforced. We need to be taking advantage of the opportunities for human and AI coaching and mentoring. Includes developing integrity of applications and services. We need to ensure that there's an assurance of trust for the end users, as well as fostering innovation. These need to have frameworks of use, practice, education, and governance designed and deployed. The briefing here looks at the breakdown of the AI Act's impacts. Coaching and mentoring professions need to be AI ready for 2024. Now, Any strategic response later than the summer of 2024 is likely to bring uncertainty and instability for the future of the coaching and mentoring professions. This is because at the rate of adoption of AI by the public and organisations, it's estimated that professionals must have deployed plans to mitigate against risks, as well as take advantage of opportunities within the first 3 to 6 months of 2024. Now, this can't be done by any one body, business, authority or government, and it's going to require global collaboration at a rate that's faster than the rates of AI adoption and advancement, something that all stakeholders have yet to match. Now, there are specific impacts for coaching and mentoring, a diverse range that the EU AI Act could have on various stakeholders involved in the use of AI in coaching and mentoring. Areas that are likely to be affected, including 7 key application use cases. Coaches and mentees that use AI for self-guidance, professionals that are using AI for sessions, supervision of coaches and mentors using AI, training provision and certification modules covering competencies for using AI by coaches and mentors, regulations and governance for coaching and mentoring professionals using AI in their practice, significance of the AI acts of law in how research and development is carried out that investigates how AI is being used in coaching and mentoring, and lastly, commercial coaching and mentoring products and services that are utilising AI. Looking at the first of those factors, coaches and mentees using AI for self-guidance, it's important that there's an enhanced safety and rights protection. The Act actually ensures that AI systems are safe and respect fundamental rights, which could increase trust in AI tools that are used for self-guidance. There's got to be clarity and transparency. AI systems must clearly disclose any AI involvement that's aiding the coaches and mentees in making informed decisions about their use. And there's got to be some risk-based regulation. Any tools that are deemed high risk will be subject to stricter rules, possibly limiting the availability or functionality of some of those AI self-guidance tools. Later in the presentation, I'll just go through some of those elements that are considered high risk. Now, for coaches and mentors that are using AI for sessions, they're going to have to comply with the high risk criteria. And that means that if the AI is used in coaching sessions is classified as high risk, that means coaches will need to comply with specific requirements, potentially altering how they use those tools. There has to be a fundamental rights impact assessment, meaning that coaches have got to conduct assessments to ensure that AI tools don't infringe on the fundamental rights of coachees. There's got to be data quality and transparency. The coaches are going to need to ensure the data used by the AI tools is of high quality and that the use of the AI is transparent to the coachees. Now, for those people who are involved in supervision of coaches and mentors that are using AI in their practice, that they're going to need some enhanced oversight in what they do. The supervisors are going to need to ensure that the coach's use of AI aligns with the new regulatory framework. And in training and awareness, the supervisors are going to themselves need additional training to understand how AI-related risks and compliance requirements are going to have to be enforced and understood and shared and disseminated with the coaches that they're actually helping. When it comes to training provision and certification modules covering competencies for using AI by coaches and mentors, clearly there's going to need to be updated curriculums. Training programs for coaches and mentors are going to likely have to have new modules on things like AI ethics, risk assessment, as well as compliance with the AI Act. In certification requirements, certain certifications may include new competencies related to the ethical and effective use of AI in coaching and mentoring. For those that are working in governing bodies, the regulations and governance for coaching and mentoring professionals that are using AI in their practice are going to have to be adapted and changed. There's going to be need for stricter guidelines. Now, there may be new guidelines and standards for coaches and mentors regarding the ethical use of AI. There's going to be governance challenges. Professional bodies might face challenges in monitoring and enforcing compliance with the AI Act amongst their members. There's going to be quite some significance of the AI Act and how it's going to affect research and development and how it's carried out, specifically where research and development might be investigating AI use in coaching and mentoring. There's going to be some limitations. The Act's going to require the limitation of certain types of AI research in coaching, particularly if it's deemed high risk. However, there's still going to be encouragement of innovation. The Act's going to encourage innovation, potentially leading to new, safer and more effective tools for AI-based coaching. There's a little bit of a focus shift. Research might have to shift towards developing AI tools that comply with the new regulations while still being effective for coaching purposes. Commercial companies such as digital coaching providers and those that are providing mentoring products and services are going to have to go through some additional compliance. There's going to be market access requirements where products and services are going to need to meet the Act's requirements to access the EU market, and it's got to be in a way that ensures that they're going to be safe and respectful of fundamental rights. There's also got to be a focus on competitive advantage. Compliance with the AI Act could become a competitive advantage because it signals higher standards and trustworthiness to potential clients. Overall, the EU AI Act is likely to lead to some increased scrutiny and regulation of AI tools that are used in coaching and mentoring, emphasising specifically safety, transparency and the respect for fundamental rights. Now, this could result in more trustworthy AI applications, but might also limit the use of certain AI technologies in coaching practices. Looking at the potential impacts, let's have a look at the calls to action that are going to happen as a consequence for the EU AI Act coming into enforcement. Now, I'm the author of this report, and one of the things I recognise is the likely impacts that have been discussed so far. They're going to lead to the call for, first of all, a roadmap, a strategic roadmap to transform the coaching and mentoring professions, specifically for timeframes that are immediate, near and far horizons of time. For the year 2024, the years 2025 to 2030, and for the years 2030 to 2050. They're going to be need to have new competency sets to use AI in practice. Currently, there aren't any in any governing body that exists which relates to coaching, the ICF, EMCC and the AC. There are task force and research groups within those organisations which are in the process of doing this, but there hasn't been anything delivered yet that can be adopted by training schools or mentors or supervisors, for example. There also is going to need to be, obviously, modules in training and certification curriculums and continuing professional development pathways to enable professionals to be AI literate. Again, there really aren't any formalised curriculums that have been established by schools or by any of the governing bodies yet, except for what's been delivered by the AI Coaching Alliance, where some foundation courses have already been delivered from December 2023, and new ones are being released in 2024, all informed by what the individual governing bodies are doing, certainly, but independently of that, working with hundreds of researchers and coaches from around the world to ensure that what is being put out is something that's practically useful and is also going to be compliant. Now, following that, there's probably going to need to be development of supervision skill sets that can guide professionals using AI. There's going to need to be compliance for regulatory governance alignment and enforcement of the human AI coaching and mentoring, specifically in alignment with the acts of law. Any innovation in human AI coaching and mentoring research and development is going to need to be funded and proposals written and evaluated. There's a call, obviously, from this to create a comprehensive framework of enforceable ethical rules and standards to enact the principles of empowering human and AI interactions. And last but not least, there's got to be compliance for the commercial coaching and mentoring products and services that are utilising AI to ensure that they're doing so within acts of AI law. So that's particularly going to apply to digital coaching platforms and also to anybody who's producing an AI for use in coaching. Now, the first three of these that you can see highlighted, they've already been put in motion since December 2023, and the next foundation courses in human AI coaching and mentoring are running from 11th of March 2024, and there's an hour primer in AI coaching features and frameworks that's going to be held on the 19th of March. If we look at everything in conclusion, then we can say that the scope of the EU AI Act is going to affect coachees, mentees, coaches, mentors, supervisors, training providers, regulatory bodies, R&D projects, and AI-based business products and services. All stakeholders must prepare for compliance with the Act and need to mitigate the risks for violating the Act and to, at the same time, leverage opportunities for human and AI coaching and mentoring. The strategic response is going to require a bit of urgency from professions to be AI ready for 2024, and it's also going to require some global collaboration. Now, if coaches want to already start using AI, then it's probably best to follow a best practice approach. And here you can see an example of one that was developed over the last 16 years. And it begins with just using AI for information purposes only. That's AI informed. And that's where the AI informs the coach, and the coach from it creates guidance suggestions as a basis for the client dialogue. The next stage up from that is to take an AI guided approach. And this is where the AI informs and offers guided suggestions to the coach, but then the coach filters the suggestions as a basis for the client dialogue. Once the client and the coach have got a bit more comfortable with AI being part of the contracting process, then the AI might be allowed to directly coach the client or the coachee. And in that situation, the AI informs and offers guidance suggestions directly to the client, but the coach is always moderating the suggestions and adapts them if they're needed. So that's an AI delivered supervised approach or AI supervised approach. After a while, both client and coach might be really comfortable with the AI and what it's doing and understand its limitations. At that point, the AI might be allowed to be used with the client in an independent, unsupervised way, for example, between sessions. Now, in that situation, the AI informs and offers guidance suggestions directly to the client, but the coach only intervenes if coaching boundaries might be broken. So it's really important the AI has safeguards built in, and if there's any likelihood that psychological safety, boundaries or contracting are going to get compromised, then the AI needs to inform the coach through notifications, and the coach needs to intervene. And in the meantime, the AI can actually, in a compassionate way, bring the interaction with the client to a pause until the coach can come in and look at what's going on and see what actually needs to be done if an intervention is actually required. Now, right now, there are many people who are allowing AIs to directly coach clients, and this is something that's got a lot of liability associated with it and risk, and certainly of the kind that if laws of a particular nation or a continent are enforced, that coach could be prosecuted, and it's really important to prevent that. So the advice here is never start by allowing a client to be using an AI in an unsupervised way. Always start from an AI informed approach, and then slowly progress through to an AI guided approach, and then AI supervised, and only then, when the full capacity and capability of the AI has been found to be appropriate, both by client and the coach, at that point do you allow for the AI to coach the client in an unsupervised way. And remember the costs if you don't. In the future, you may find that you are going against specific articles of law, as well as going against ethical guidelines and regulations by your governing body. So please don't go leaping straight on to number 4 here. Always start at number 1, then step by step go from there to number 2, number 3, and then number 4. AI informed, AI guided, AI supervised, and then lastly AI unsupervised. Now, this doesn't apply just to coaching practice. This also applies to bringing AI into training coaches. Start from an informed approach, and then use a guided approach, and then supervised and unsupervised. Even in supervision sessions where a coach is being guided who's using AI in their practice, the same thing. The supervisor has got to start from an AI informed approach, then AI guided, AI supervised, and then finally unsupervised. Now, the coach themselves is not the only person that's being trained or going through supervision during this process. It's really important to recognize that AIs learn, and therefore this approach also needs to be applied not just to the coach, but also the AI itself. The AI needs to be informed. It needs to be working in a guided way in its own development and ultimately how it interacts with people that it's helping out. And it needs to go through some reinforcement learning, some supervision in how it goes about doing things too, because the AI is the third party in a tripartite relationship between the coach, the client, and the AI itself. So it's important to look at practice, training, and supervision, not just for the coach, but actually for the AI itself as well. Now, when you are using AI in practice or in provision of training or supervision, it's really important to recognize that at all levels of oversight delivery, you're going to have frameworks and functions and procedures in place for specific factors. One is mediation of consent, getting permissions. The other is facilitation of data privacy for the coach and client, making sure the data is secure, isn't shared. Third, that the data has integrity and that it's not corrupted and that it has validity and it's authentic. And lastly, there's got to be some autonomy in how the data is being managed and controlled, and how the client, for example, has access to it in terms of their rights. There has to be enforcement of constraints and boundaries and ethics and regulations according to the national and international governing and certification bodies. But obviously, in addition to that, there has to be alignment and compliance with acts of law in those countries, and continental acts of law too, as well as international acts of law. The AIs themselves have got to have something in them that will be able to activate some kind of process that will trigger consequences if there are violations of constraints, boundaries, ethics and regulations. There've got to be alerts for trends that might indicate that those boundaries and violations in contracting could be possibly something that needs to have an intervention by the human coach. The future is very likely to see that this is going to happen in a decentralized way, where people aren't relying on a central AI or a central governing body, and we may see the use of AI in coaching follow the route of finance and what happened with cryptocurrency and how finance was developed independently of banks, central banks. So we're probably going to see something similar happen with coaching and AI, where coaching and AI isn't going to be the sole province of a particular AI provider or a particular governing body. It's something that's going to be worked with in a localized way and a decentralized way. Now, as new levels of coaching are going to be provided by artificial intelligence, they may evolve to a level where they could become sentient and capable of empathy, for example, all the way up to being artificially sapient. And that aligns with the ideas of artificial general intelligence and superintelligence, where they're capable of even things like compassion and consciousness. Now, when things reach that level, which they might reach in maybe the next 20 to 30 years, more sophisticated regulations are going to have to be enshrined and enforced in the actual AIs themselves, algorithmically. And when necessary, it's going to require some human policing interventions. These are all things that are going to have direct impacts on coaching because of the fact that if you have AIs that can actually be empathic or capable of compassion or consciousness, then these are going to need some human oversight and policing to ensure that they don't break boundaries and they align to contracts and they ensure psychological safety as well. Now, if we look at the risks that are likely to emerge, particularly the high ones and the unacceptable ones that the EU AI Act has referenced, you can see that of the risks listed in those high and unacceptable categories, the ones that you see here, coloured blue, purple, these are all the ones that are most likely to show up in coaching practice. Amongst the high risks, we're looking at things that are permitted, but people who are the developers or the users, that includes coaches as well as the clients, they've got to adhere to regulations that really require rigorous testing, proper documentation of the data and its quality, and a real strong accountability framework that details how human beings are overseeing what's actually being used. Now that will typically be subject to specific legal requirements, and examples include, specifically for coaching, educational or vocational training that might determine the access to education and professional courses of someone's life, for example, scoring of exams, and things like employment, management of workers and access to self-employment, for example. In the unacceptable category, which is about a clear threat to safety, livelihoods and rights of people, systems will actually be banned, with little exception, that do all of the things that you see under this category, and that includes employing subliminal or manipulative or deceptive methods to skew behaviour, prey on the weaknesses of individual people or certain groups, use biometric classification systems predicated on sensitive attributes or features. You may already be aware that there's video capture that assesses sessions, and part of that might end up being put under this particular category. When you're conducting operations for formulating social scores or assessing reliability, which is something that's happening in certain countries, the risks associated with engaging people who are being evaluated to predict criminal behaviour or administrative violations, the risks associated with generating or broadening facial recognition databases through non-specific scraping, and last but not least, deducing emotional states in contexts such as law enforcement, border control, workplaces and schools. Now, this is already going on in coaching. Video capture and other biometrics or gadgets are being used in conjunction with coaching to determine emotional states and adjust approaches based on what's actually captured. So if you're using AI and there's a likelihood that any of these risks associated with the high and unacceptable categories are likely to show up, then you need to pay extra attention to EUA Act and ensure that you're compliant. Failure to be compliant to the EUA Act and avoid the risks associated with it, the high ones and the unacceptable ones, is a challenge in itself. But there's additional challenges as well to do with AI and its use in coaching. Specifically, if you're an organisation or even if you're an individual coach and you have already got, for example, a data policy to do with GDPR regulations, you're going to find that new additional requirements are probably going to start kicking in that affect you in a wider way, specifically around having a policy that you're implementing around AI, policy that you're implementing around diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging, and a policy related to the ethics of what you do. It's really impossible to use AI without having to consider whether the way the data is being worked with or how it's being used is being done in an ethical way, and it's being done in a way that's avoiding bias when it comes to things that relate to diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging issues. If there's any incongruence or any incoherence in any of the policies, that's going to be a problem, because when those incongruences and incoherences in any one of those policies bumps into incongruences and incoherences from another policy, then you're going to get issues like the ones that emerged recently with Google Gemini AI image rendering, where when it was asked to produce images of 1943 German soldiers, it produced images of soldiers from ethnic minorities. So that ethnic minority Nazi output is actually a consequence of inconsistencies, incongruence and incoherence between that company's artificial intelligence, diversity, equity and belonging and inclusion and ethics policies. Now, if these are congruent and they are coherent, then you wouldn't get this kind of output. You wouldn't get founding fathers that are black, for example. So if you're an organisation or you're an individual that's involved in coaching, a critical factor for you to really start paying attention to is whether your respective policy implementations are in alignment with each other, that they're congruent with one another, and that there's coherence in the terms and articles that you're implementing in your organisation or for your practice. It sounds like a lot of work, but this is the consequence of you have to utilize AI in your practice or in your organisation. You're going to have to be more structured, and you're going to have to be more rigorous in how the different kinds of implementations of policy bump into each other, and make sure you don't get caught out in a way that results in this kind of effect or outcome for your organisation. If you want to prevent issues of the kind I just described about the clashes between different policy implementations, it helps if you've got some tools or techniques to ensure that those incoherences or incongruences don't materialize. So you can see here an example of a way that you could do that, and in the columns you can see an organisation's that how their diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging policies are being implemented. They might not have any policy. They might just have a policy which is just for show. They might have a policy which they extract specific benefits from, but they aren't really embedding it into their culture for the benefit of their employees and people. And lastly, they might have a genuinely embodied policy where it's part of the culture and it genuinely focuses on empowering individuals within that organisation. It's a similar kind of spectrum for AI policy. An organisation might not have any AI policy at all. It might just have a policy for show. It's just there, and there are token gestures that may be presented in their organisation. It might be a policy that is there just to extract specific benefits and profits, and it could be, of course, a fully embedded and embodied policy which covers everything that's required, and it's part of the culture of the organisation. Now, if you connect one kind of policy with another, there are going to be consequences. For example, if you have no diversity policy and you try and get that to work alongside a fully embodied AI policy, then you're going to get a specific set of issues that arise. And you can see in that combination of no DIB policy and AI embodied policy, the AI is embedded in operations, but without diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging consideration. And that's going to miss some critical opportunities for promoting inclusivity. So the recommendation in that situation is to develop DIB policies that actually reflect the embodied nature of the AI, ensuring that technology actually promotes inclusivity. So that's an example of how two policy implementations would combine in terms of their effects. If you have no AI policy and no diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging policy, then you can see at the top left that both AI and DEIB are neglected, potentially leading to biased decisions and missed opportunities for inclusive growth. And the recommendation there is to initiate some kind of basic awareness and training in both areas to start recognising the potential and risks. So you can look at where your organisation is on this. You probably have an idea what kind of policy you have in terms of diversity and artificial intelligence. And if you look at where the two meet, then you'll probably be able to see the issues that are currently present, even if you're not aware of them, and what the recommendation actually is. Now, this is just with AI and diversity, equity and belonging policies. You also need to consider effects of combining these with things like an ethics policy or an ESG policy too. Using a similar kind of grid, you can start developing some strategic tactics on how to go about dealing with all of this. Some recent studies have now shown what the cost is of using AI for the climate, especially in terms of usage of power, energy, water, for example, for cooling. And an example of that is a study done by Alexandra Sasha Liccioni, Yachin Yanete and Emma Struble in 2023. And you can see the link there at the bottom. And what they found was that the most efficient AI text generation models, they expend a full phone charge of energy for 6,000 AI text inferences. But what was really alarming was that the least efficient AI image generation model uses nearly a full phone charge just for one image and its generation. So if millions of people are generating images and doing text inferences, clearly the additional carbon footprint of that is going to start to get really, really big. Every time you do something with AI, if you're a coach, you might want to ask yourself, do you really want to add to the carbon footprint of the planet every time you're doing a prompt, every time you're generating an image? There's an ethical dilemma there you need to really consider. Your clients might not want you to use AI because of this, not just because of trust associated with the AI itself. So it's a complex issue, but do consider it. If you look at the bottom there, you'll see the exact sort of metrics with regards to using AI, but specifically that the average smartphone requires 0.012 kilowatts of energy, which means that the most efficient text generation model uses as much energy as 16% of a full smartphone charge for 1,000 inferences, whereas the least efficient image generation model uses as much as 950 smartphone charges, or nearly one charge per image. Now, if you want further details, including carbon footprint costs, do look at that link that I've shown you at the bottom there. If you or your organisation wants to get a briefing of artificial intelligence coaching and mentoring, specifically the frameworks and what the emerging futures are over the next 10 years from 2024 to 2034, then please do attend the briefing, a 1 hour primer that we're doing on 19th of March. It's 1 hour non-technical interactive primer of best practice frameworks for adoption, adaptation and utilization of AI in executive coaching. It introduces the best practice frameworks and methodologies to prepare coaches for using artificial intelligence with clients in coach professional education, supervision, governance, legal compliance, as well as research and commercial development. So we're not going to go into any great detail. The idea of the primer is just to show you the landscape that you're potentially going to have to get competencies in, and then at least you're informed and you're aware of the continuing professional development that you're probably going to need to go through as a coach, and the new educational module that you're going to need to add to curriculums if you run a school or you're a trainer, and also specifically the issues that might arise if you are someone who does supervision, what could come up for the coaches that you mentor or that you do supervision for. And lastly, if you're a governing body or you do research and development, at least you're clued in with regards to the territories that you need to develop regulations for and standards for. Do check that out, because it'll also obviously connect it back into things like the EU AI Act and show you exactly where you need to be doing some development, ensuring that you have legal compliance, not just for yourself as an organisation or as a school or as a supervisor, but also right down to ensuring that coaches that are members of your governing body or organisation, that they're being compliant while they're actually generating opportunities for their clients to realise their potential and attain their goals. Thank you for listening to me today. I trust that the briefing that you've had as coaches and mentors today has been enough for you to see the implications for using AI in partnership with your coaching and mentoring practice. And if you'd like to find out more information, please go to the AICoachingAlliance.com website or catch up with me on LinkedIn, and I'll look forward to connecting with you further and hopefully giving you some additional value to what I've given to you today. Thank you.